today because for some reason YouTube would not allow me to do it horizontally. We'll go with this one tonight. It's all right. It works for me. How is everybody doing out there? I get ready here for the live stream. Make sure everything is set. I hate horizontal. Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm sorry. I hate vertical, but seems to be okay. I think we're all right. I'm in shot. How is everybody doing out there? Thank you so much for joining into the live stream tonight. You could be spending your time doing a lot of other things, but to spend a little bit of it here on this channel, watching this live stream is really, really appreciated. So I want to start out, as always, saying thank you. I'm very grateful to have the audience that I do, and what a wonderful audience. It's growing all the time. Thank you guys so much for taking your time to tune in this evening. I shall not disappoint, I hope. As you could tell from tonight's title for tonight's live stream subject, I'm in a whimsical, which is good. That's always good. Ben Allmark in the house. Hello, Michael. Wow, so formal tonight. Well, hello, Benjamin. How are you? I'm doing fine. Tall, thick Kevin in the house. Evening, sir. How you doing? Um, yeah, guys, we got. I thought you'd like that one. We've got quite some interesting things to discuss tonight, and I don't know how. Let me see. I'm looking at this. I'm not liking this. I really don't like vertical, but I set it to horizontal, but it just wouldn't accept it tonight for some reason. And it's YouTube. They, of course, send out memorandums to content creators. And in one of them, it was recommending that they want people to start shooting horizontal, content, so they can start competing with TikTok or something like that. I don't know. Either way, if I choose horizontal, I'm playing your rules. You can give me horizontal. That's all I'm trying to say. But that's all right. At least I'm wearing pants tonight, so, so you catch the lower half here. It's all good tonight. I have something I want to share with you guys. We'll wait for more people to show up in the live stream. I tell you, Matt, before can't stop playing the music. Welcome. How you doing? But actually, I was going to do that, but I'm going to do that last. I'm going to get to the subject at hand first tonight, and then I shall share something very interesting with you. I call tonight Gibson, and GiveSum. And it's a whimsical title, but I'm actually being serious about this. I watch a lot of Japanese TV, a lot. I'd say between my English language television watching and my Japanese television watching, it's about 50. Sometimes more Japanese than English. And I found a guy on YouTube just to keep my Japanese up. I don't want to lose it. At the same time, I'm learning Dutch now. I've been learning Dutch. Yeah, so lots of fun there. But I was watching this guy on YouTube, Japanese guy, and he was talking about Japanese. The title of his YouTube content was Japanese vintage guitars, and of course, I found that to be a stimulating title, seeing that I'm into those. So I clicked onto it, and one of the first things that he was doing, he was actually trying to talk to new buyers, people who are not familiar with the market at all. And one of the things that he was bringing up first, what I thought was pretty cool when I thought about it, was warning about how you could be looking for a Gibson, but you could come across a Gibson or GiveSum, and believe it or not, and he showed examples. I've got one here I pulled for sale at a British shop in the UK called Man Antiquities, and it is the Gibsun SUN Les Paul copy guitar. They want 170 pounds for it. It is a Les Paul copy. Looks like to have a veneer top on it with, oddly enough, It looks like a custom headstock on it, but it's an actual real guitar. And I thought and you know, the one that got me was the GiveSum. He found an example of on a Chinese, of course, Alibaba site for give some guitars. And I just cracked up, man. That it said give some on the headstock. I'm not kidding. Yeah, man, just great. But his point being something that I touched upon lightly before, but I want to get into a little bit more into detail since it's giving me a good excuse to do so. And I'm going to change I really don't like this orientation. There we go. That's a little better. I feel like I got to lean over. Is talking about what his purpose of bringing those up was, which was the intent of warning the consumer about being falsely led to think you're getting a Gibson when you're actually buying a Gibson. And in Japan, that is an issue because us as native English speakers, most of us, we hear the difference between Gibson and Gibson. We can hear that difference. Believe you me, the Japanese cannot. They can't hear that distinction. It's like tacos and what was that? And Bernie is a good example, actually, that we can stick within the realm of guitars in Japanese language. They actually wanted to call it bunny. But what they heard when I say bunny, they heard Bernie. So they put Bernie, and that's how Bernie guitars came about. That is the factual story. Don Juan Campbell. Hey, Mike. Happy Sunday to you and everyone on. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Matty Two Hats in the house as well, Mr. Watson. James Severin in the house. Welcome, welcome, guys. Hey, how you doing, guys? Everybody showing up. I appreciate it. But that's real. That's a for real story of how Bernie. I think I've told you before how Bernie, because they wanted to call it bunny guitars, but they heard Bernie, and so the difference between Gibson and Gibson, they can't hear that difference. And so I thought it was quite admirable, this guy speaking to a Japanese audience of young cats and whoever else new to the game about, hey, look out for this. It was the GiveSum, the GiveSum. Everybody wants some, everybody gets some. It was the GiveSums that just was too much for me. Because I mean, you know, I wish I could. I'm going to try to freeze frame his content to see if I can see the website that he was pulling up to see those guitars, because that would just be awesome to have a GiveSum. It built with GiveSum quality. So it's a topic that's as old as hills, but it's basically getting into knockoff guitars, because I spent so much time digging into Gibsons, which are not knockoff guitars. You say, hey, wait a minute, I thought a Gibson is a knockoff guitar. No. Au contraire, mon frère. A Gibson is for the best word, well, I don't want to use that language. It is a fake copy. I had the F word in there somewhere. I was able to use an F in there. Who I wanted to say ended in all. The British people appreciate that one. But it's a fake copy. But it's a difference between a knockoff and a fake copy. There's a difference there. And tonight, as a topic of discussion for part one of tonight's discussion, because part two, I'm going to share something with you guys. So stick around that you'll find interesting. But I want to make that difference because I frankly don't have an issue with knockoffs. And I've said this before. One of the reasons I don't have a problem with knockoffs and I got a huge problem with counterfeits is because, you know, the intent. With the GiveSum guys, I have to think they just had to be kidding. They had to be pulling one for a laugh. You know, they were having a laugh there. Had to be. because that's just hilarious. Givesum, Gibson. Um, but I want to talk about this discussion in context of why I make that distinction, because I think that the knockoff copies in some of the places in the world that I've had the honor of traveling to in my lifetime, a knockoff copy is about the best you're going to get. And in the case of this Gibson copy for 170 pounds that I pulled up, looking at the pictures and looking at how the construction is made on it, there's another thing about this is that the construction quality on this, I would take this Gibson over a Gibson any day of the week. I'm getting ahead of it myself here. So first of all, let's talk about why knockoff guitars exist in the first place. The Gibson Les Paul is an iconic guitar. We all know that, beloved by players all over the world. For its sound, its brilliant quality, and its history. Not everyone can afford a genuine Les Paul guitar. And some people don't want them. That's me. Well, anyway, I digress. Which is where these knockoffs come in. Companies around the world, especially in China, have taken the Les Paul design and created their own versions, sometimes with interesting variations on the name like Gibson or GiveSum. It's, again, aspirational. And just like the fake Rolex that my friend Drake used to walk around with, it was aspirational to him. It didn't mind. I mean, to me, I again, like I said, I don't have that kind of mind where I can look at something and try to do, somersaults in my brain, leaps of logic to convince myself that it's something that it's not, especially in the case of a counterfeit like that Rolex. However, that was a counterfeit because it said Rolex on it. I've seen Lex. That's a knockoff. So what am I getting at? I'm getting at the fact what it really comes down to is trademark avoidance. So, of course, we all know that the headstock on the Gibson Les Paul is trademarked, and it is something that they really, really fiercely hold on to because they can use it for licensing purposes. For example, again, one of the guitars that I had here was licensed to be able to use. I keep forgetting the Stoner. The Stoner Les Paul was licensed to have that Gibson headstock, and for whatever they paid for to do that special run of guitars. And the same issue is going on with Epiphone right now. They're getting licensed from their parent company, Gibson, the rights to use that headstock for their Inspired by Gibson range now. And so there's money to be had in that. So they, of course, we've talked about the so-called lawsuit guitars and how in Japan that was going under the radar. It was all good until it wasn't. But that aside, in most other markets, they will defend the headstock. However, the name, doesn't matter. And you make slight variations on the headstock like we've seen in the case of GiveSum, then you have something called trademark avoidance. It all comes down to trademark law. Companies know using the exact Gibson name and logo would get them in serious legal trouble. Refer back to the Gibsons and why I have a problem with those. So they get creative. By changing a letter or two, they can produce a guitar that looks and feels similar to a Les Paul, but doesn't directly infringe on Gibson's trademark. It's a very important thing there. Now, it skates the line. I got to tell you, in all honesty, that's skating the line, especially in the case of the Gibson. If you guys have time, you can Google that, Gibsun. I'm sure you'll find an example or two of a Gibson guitar. They look like any run-of-the-mill Epiphones that you would find in the the range prior to 2020. And construction, I believe, is the same. But they're skating the line there. There is a thin line they're skating, but it is something that more or less does work out there. It's not something that Gibson really has hard on to go after, is what I'm trying to say. So there is that. Um, all right. Now let's talk about Gibson and GiveSum specifically. Now, these are some of the most well-known examples of Gibson knockoffs in Japan, actually. I didn't know this. So this is why I like watching the Japanese YouTube content, because those cats, there's a Japanese word that you may or may not be familiar with. It's called otaku. And otaku basically is a hobbyist, a guy who's, and by that I mean a mega hobbyist, really into something. The train guys will get up early in the morning, go to in the middle of nowhere, so they can take a picture of a limited run train going by that's just going to go by for that weekend only. To that extent, and the guitar guys are no different. Um, Now, in terms of quality, this guy was saying that the Gibson guitars are actually not that bad. And here, finding an example at a UK-based shop, the shop's not going to sell anything. By the way, in the Gibson territory. Again, like I said, this falls on the. It's a thin line. It's skating the line, but this falls on the proper side of things. So they do sell it. And again, I was to check it out, and the quality there, again, like I said, I would just from looking at it, the pictures that I could see, I would say it looks like any other Epiphone, you know, like you would find back in the day, like the 2012, for example, I gave to my brother, or earlier. I keep forgetting the dates of that. Anyway, um, now the build quality on these are going to be better than a Gibson, you know, for a lot of reasons. These are really mass-produced guitars. It's really no joke. These are not joke, small run limited things. There are a lot of Gibsons and GiveSums out there, and I can't speak to the quality of the GiveSums because, again, like I said, I couldn't find an example of that to look at tonight, share with you guys. But looking at the Gibson, yeah, mass produced thing. Found a lot of examples of it. So then again, like I said, I'm sure that they're sourcing the materials the same places that other Chinese guys are getting their stuff for. The other companies other than Epiphone that produce guitars like Court and things of that nature that have offices in Guangzhou. Now, interestingly, some of these guitars aren't actually that bad, especially when you consider the price. I mean, 170 pounds for a decent Les Paul copy, is all right. Especially again, like I said, if you're just starting out, you know. And again, that's one of the beauties of knockoffs is that you can at least start off with a Les Paul, decide if that's the guitar for you. You may find out you're a Strat guy or a Tele guy or something, but at least you got an entry level option that's not on the illegal side of the law. And anyway, you're not even going to be able to order a Gibson, by the way, AliExpress for 175 pounds. They cost more than that. That blows my mind, which again gets to the mentality of the person who would buy that in the first place. It's about what it says on the headstock. But in any case, let's talk about the other side of the coin. Chinese counterfeits that use the actual Gibson name and logo. These guitars that are often sold online through various websites, you guys know which, they're not just skirting the trademark law, they are breaking it. And I've covered that in great detail. These counterfeit guitars, just touch upon it just so slightly. I've just wrote a paragraph. These counterfeit guitars often look almost identical to the real thing at a glance, and some are even sold as Gibson guitars to unexpecting buyers. Again, I refer you to the three-chord Dave story last week, where he saw one was being sold. However, the quality is often very poor, and the buyer is almost always left with something that doesn't play, sound, or feel anything like a real Gibson. Now, you'll have the cats who will buy them and tell you up and down, hey, it's as good as a Gibson. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I just don't. I just don't. Um, Again, there's a loss of money there, in my opinion, because there's so many other things. Hell, for the cost of a Gibson, you could get yourself into a '70s Greco, like a 450 or 500. So again, there's that. But let's get back to the knockoffs that don't use the Gibson name, but still aim to capture that Les Paul vibe. Now, some of these guitars, especially the brands that don't try to deceive buyers into thinking that they're getting a Gibson, can actually be pretty good. And we're talking about guitars that, while not perfect, offer a lot of value for the money. See, it's about, again, I always get back to value for the money. Um, you're all good, channel motto. You're all good when you're getting good value for your money. It's one of the beautiful things, again, like I said, about these knockoffs, is because, again, you got a kid, says, Dad, Mom, I want to get a Les Paul. And you're like, I'm not getting this kid, a $2,500 guitar. Let's find out if he's any good. Let's see if he sticks with it, and let's see if it's something that he likes. At 175 pounds, that's quite doable. And you're getting, again, you're getting Epiphone quality for cheaper than Epiphone in this case, because the Gibsums, I think, are Epiphone quality, but you're getting, again, older Epiphone quality, but you're getting it for a lot cheaper. So, again, there is that. And there's a lot of them out there. And that's not, these are just examples for Les Pauls. There are examples, of course, for Strats as well out there, but just sticking to this. So there's that. All right, we covered a lot today, from the legal gymnastics of trademark avoidance to the good, the bad, the ugly of Les Paul knockoffs. And I think that drawing that distinction, making that distinction between knockoffs and counterfeits is important, especially when I take such a high-handed opinion of the counterfeits. Again, taking over, Mike's work, where he has spent, the last part of his lifetime, China Guitar Skeptic channel, really explaining and showing why these knockoffs were what they were. At the end, he actually started getting into expanding out into people who were presenting Jimi Hendrix guitar, for example, as being a legitimate Hendrix guitar, or they were presenting a guitar and representing it as being the Monterey Pop guitar, I believe, something like that, or something around that time period. And he was really doing forensic work. I mean, he really was digging that. Unfortunately, before the LS prevented him from continuing his research. So, you know, it extends out, it goes out there. The knockoffs and the counterfeits, just like, again, I was touching upon the art market and how a lot of that is money laundering. There's also, wherever there's a potential to make money, guarantee you that somebody's going to try to say, "Hey, I found this up in my granddad's closet." It's it's the original design for the Les Paul, or something like that. Anyway, not that extreme, but along those lines. And that's one side of the coin. Like I said, the other side of the coin, the knockoff guitars, I don't have a problem with them, because I just think that for people's different people have different budgets, and for a smaller budget, um, a knockoff guitar like these would be the way to go. I've always said that. I don't consider to be Epiphones, but I don't consider Epiphones, by the way, to be knockoff guitars. Just like I don't think that these guitars are knockoffs. Those things actually, it ceases being a knockoff guitar when it actually exceeds the quality of its original. Then it becomes, again, like I said, a problem. Which is why guys from Fender got on a plane and decided, well, you know what, we should have these cats make them for us because they're making them better than we are. I was watching a documentary yesterday afternoon while I was just sitting on the couch about Fender, again, about the history of Fender. You can look up the history of Fender guitars, part one, came up a few days ago. Somebody spliced together a bunch of interviews from the original guys who worked at the Fullerton plant and told stories about Leo Fender. And again, uh, interesting to me that what started out, you know, the Stratocaster was just to expand their line. It wasn't anything in particular. It was just so that they could have something other than the broadcaster and the Telecaster to sell. And who knew all these years later that a huge counterfeiting, conspiracy would start to evolve around that? As you know, that's how my mind works. But I'm sitting there and watching that documentary. I'm like, holy crap! If these guys only knew, you know, what what this thing was. You know, Leo Fender sold it to CBS in '65, November of '65, because they showed them the newspaper clipping from that day, and for $10 million. He thought he'd get $1 million out of it. When they came back at him with $10 million, you know, he was ecstatic. He didn't even think it was worth that much. Well, my God, think about what it's worth now. You know, and again, like I said, the counterfeit knockoff markets that come from it. But again, when you would see the quality of what it is that you're trying to knock off, then the Japanese guitars or Epiphones for that reason, because again, the Epiphones are licensed by Gibson, so it's not really a knockoff. Again, guys, a lot of definitions here, a lot of splitting hairs, I guess you could say, but it is my thoughts on, again, it's not fair for me to sit here and criticize the Gibson guys why there's obviously knockoffs out there like Gibsums and not to address that. It's kind of like the elephant in the room. I thought tonight I would do that and point out why I don't consider them to be such a bad thing because of the pure economics of them and how they're helping people become guitar. What we want to do is get more guitarists playing more guitars, so there's more guitar music, so that so the wheel keeps going. And if it takes a 175-pound GiveSum to get you going on that pathway, then God bless you. You know, I'm glad it's there, but I don't want it to be a chip. It could discourage you. It could be so crappily made, and nobody, anyway, nobody worth their salt is going to work. I know I can't take a Gibson down to Fern. He'll burn it. I'll come back and he'll be like, warm his hands above a trash can with it. Luthiers, any luthier worth his salt really won't take those in. The takeover TTO subbed. Hey, thank you, sir. Welcome to the family. This is the insane asylum that we've created here. We get to get live twice a week, Sunday night and Wednesday night, same bad time, same bad channel. Welcome to the community, guys. Give this man a welcome. Yeah, man. Just, again, I can't. Yeah, anyway, I beat that to death. I just can't make that mental gymnastic leap in my mind from Gibson to. I'd rather have the knockoff. And as you can see, now, by the way, the Stoner Les Paul, that was a knockoff. However, it was a good knockoff. Again, it was a lot cheaper quality than the Inspired by Gibson line, and it had all of the same. I know. I'm sorry. The wood was actually a better quality. So there's that. But it was a knockoff. Mark Pell, amen. My 2020 Epi LP Studio is the best LP Les Paul I've ever played or owned. And incidentally, my limited EC 256 is its equal. At least, both retailed around $600 USD. Just throwing this in for the discussion. Hey, I appreciate it, Mark. We'd love to have you join the discussion. Thank you for those thoughts. Yeah. Again, a price point for everybody to get in. And then sometimes that's it for you. You're like, hey, you know what? I like this Gibson guitar. The audience is not going to know the difference if you're rocking hard. They're not going to be saying, yeah, it just would have rocked a whole lot harder if he had a real Gibson instead of that Gibson. I don't think they're going to say that. I don't think that discussion is going to come about, guys. I just don't. And so, again, it comes down to the counterfeit buyers that desire, that aspirational desire, without putting in any of the effort. You want a Gibson guitar, then save. Or get a second, mow your neighbor's lawn, take a newspaper out, do something. And the sense of accomplishment when you're able to buy that guitar. Who's that? Robert over there on Robert's channel. He just got his dream guitar. Interestingly enough, a Les Paul Custom. We've had my discussions. Here's Robert Baker. Robert Baker, go over his channel. He just put out a shout out to Robert Baker. He just got his dream guitar, which is a Gibson Les Paul Custom. And it's a beautiful guitar. He unboxed it and worth checking out. But the sense of accomplishment on Robert's face because of the work that he put in order to be able to afford to buy that, as opposed to if he had unboxed a Gibson. I'm just saying, there's no way. That's what I mean by making those, because, the hard work is, the getting the thing is actually secondary to the pride that you take in the work that you did in order to get there. Does that make sense? Am I being a little preachy tonight? Maybe just a little bit. All right, I want to share something with you guys. Change the subject. So, where do I start? All right, we're winding back. So, you guys remember, if you recall, that Robert Jackson. Thank you, beautiful guitars. Appreciate that. Robert Jackson. Yeah, check out Robert Jackson's guitar. Check out, he just channel. He just got a beautiful small custom Gibson. Whew, it's a beauty. Let's rewind a little bit back to when I showed you my last unboxing. Speaking of unboxings, in which I got the 78 Greco. That if you haven't checked it out, I just did a review of that on my channel. So check that out on my regular content. And I also bought a 77 from March of 1977 to be exact, a Greco Stratocaster, the Super Sound. And I got it for a whopping, I didn't tell you how much I bought it for before, but now I guess I can. I bought it for a whopping 175 euros. About the same price. The pound and euro is different. That's not equating. But anyway, I got it super cheap. Why did I get it super cheap? For those of you who were here when I showed it on the live stream, to show you the damage to it. It was filthy. It was missing the volume knob. It was completely caked in rust. Completely caked in rust. The string trees looked like a pigeon ate a rusty nail and took 2 craps on the headstock of the guitar. That's how rusty it was. The frets were green, that green rust, green rust that you get. And the pick guard was just it was filthy, and it was not quite working. When I tried the 1 and 2 pickup were working, the bridge pickup I couldn't get any sound out of. So, but I bought it anyway. I said I took a chance on it because I looked at it and I said, well, it doesn't have any neck breaks on it. For God's sake, it's a 77. It's a natural. I love the color, and I even like the color. And I think that for very little money, I can get that thing back up in shape. And I even went through because that pick guard looked so bad. I actually went through the process of in Japan having a friend of mine go down to Harajuku and pick up a actual 8-hole, which is similar to the Greco pickguards of the 70s, particularly the 600 and below line. They had 8 holes. The 700 on ups, they had 12 holes, just or 11 holes, just 12, 11 holes. Just a little trivia there for you guys who are interested, because I thought I had to replace it. Turns out I didn't. Turns out that after a little bit of work and a lot of TLC, turned this piece of junk into a beautiful player. Just a beautiful player. So again, as I stated, it was completely, the pick guard was completely filthy. Let me get centered here. It was completely filthy. And more this way. Yeah. The pick guard was completely filthy. It was missing a knob. The trim system was bent. It was bent over here in the corner, And again, like all the parts, like the string trees, for example, were completely rusted. I couldn't even see the nut on this thing. Tommy Mack in the house. Well, Tommy Mack, hey sir, how you doing? And again, everything, the spring systems, all that, all this stuff was completely rusted out. So I ended up doing a complete to clean the frets, and then level and polish on the frets. And I have to say, I'm very happy with the fret job that I did. That was my first full crown fret level and polish that I've ever done. Actually, it's clean the rust, level crown polish on this in order to revive this again. I had to completely take the tuners off this guitar because they were all rusted. I soaked in, had to use a little WD-40 on this one right here. It was so stuck to get it loose. And then I used white vinegar soak for not just these parts, but all the parts on this guitar, all the parts, metal parts, all the screws, every metal piece of part on this guitar got either a vinegar soak, white vinegar soak, or in the case of some of the screws, salt and lemon, fresh lemon, or baking soda. So I used all the different methods in order to take the rust off of this. Next thing I did was clean the pick guard, and then with alcohol, and then buff it out. It's amazing what the Meguiar's Scratch X can do for an old pick guard. It'll turn it into, give it a beautiful sheen and make it look brand new. Take out all those scratches in it as well. So that in a buffer. So what I did have to replace actually turned out to be just a few things. I have the parts here. So of course the knobs. So these are the original knobs. I only had 2 of them. Somehow, I've got a value. I'm missing a tone. So one of the tone value, original tone knobs disappeared. So I had to replace the knobs on there. Okay, not such a big deal. I actually cleaned. These are the original springs. Now, this was a point of argument between me and Fern. I did all the cleaning of all the hardware. Fern did the electronics, checking the pickups, the output jack, input jack, things of that nature. We had an argument because it took our work for me to get these springs, get the rust off and looking like this again. And he insisted, he said, really you should put new springs on there. So I have the original springs, uh, which I think are fine, but he thought it was a better idea to replace springs on it. So those are new springs. The block and the claw, all of that, of course, the trim system is the original one. I was able to not derust it, but also to fix that dent that was right here. It was bent in, if you guys remember it. All three of the XL pickups are original. And I begin to understand my SC 700 is missing the bridge pickup. It has the 1 and 2 position XL pickups, but somebody put a Fender pickup in the bridge position. I have to be honest with you, the original bridge position, the pickup, this XL bridge pickup, is damn well the best Strat. And I don't really play Strats. I've really just gotten to them in the last year or so. But that I've played a few in my life, honestly. That is the best sounding bridge pickup I've ever heard. A lot of people talk about a bridge pickup can sound thin and weak. Well, they need to get one of these XL bridge pickups because it's got a growl to it. It responds really well just from the guitar to my amp playing through my 72 green. Just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sound. Um, in the number. Now, one thing I will point out, one of the reasons why I'm glad I was able to use all the original parts is because this guitar is a 3-position switch guitar. 1, 2, 3. The 3-position switch guitar. You got your lead, your middle, and your bridge. Now, what some guys used to do is they used to try to get the pickup just to stay there in between the 1 2 the 2 and 3 position uh, until they of course came out with the 5-position switch which covered that. But Fern told me that if that switch had not worked, it would have been impossible to find a replacement. As it is, he took it apart. He thoroughly cleaned all the electronics. Very pleased to say that all of those have been completely cleaned, derusted themselves, or if there was any issues with them, and they're ready to rock and roll for another 50 years. The only thing that they end up replacing was the input jack. This is the original input jack. Um, uh, this was the issue why the bridge pickup wasn't working. It was something along the lines of the fact that it just what well for God's sake it's 47 years old. Something had to give. So this was the only part that we had to really replace. So for all intents and purposes, uh, we were able between Fern and I we were able to restore this um, that I got for nothing. I mean, you cannot buy this is out on the market as it stands right now, we're stored. This is a 650, 700 euro guitar, you know. And I can understand why the seller thought that it was moonduckseye or too much trouble to try to do this work. I thought about it and I said I would tackle it. And boy, howdy, am I glad that I did. It did not cost, I didn't, again, like I said, 90% of the work on this myself. I'm very thankful that I have the skills to be able to do that. And as a result of this, I got this very cheaply. I got a vintage guitar for Fern. I'll be completely open, concluding the cost of bringing it here. And Fern, I'm about 300 euros into this guitar. 300 euros into this for 77. Just because I again said, hey, you know what? Let's take a chance on this one and let's see if we can do the work ourselves. And it paid off. Your Greco Strat came out fantastic, Mark says. I'd be proud of it. By the way, I had a Greco Les Paul copy, a custom Black Beauty copy, killer guitar. I never let that one go. Always on the lookout for another one. Mark, I just bought 76 Greco Les Paul Black Beauty. It will be shipping out. I'm not shipping anything this month because if you know anything about Europe, everything shuts down the month of August. So I don't ship during August. So probably around the 28th or 29th of this month, I'll ship those from Japan. So it should be here hopefully before Vinendal, because I would like to take it to Vinendal, but if not, I've got that covered. But yeah, I have one on the way. So please stick around and check it out. Um, I'm very excited. Much like Robert Jackson, my dream guitar has been a Les Paul Custom. And this Greco, being an exact copy of that, all the way down to the fret nibs, actually, in the case of this one, is exciting. So we'll see. I don't buy them to keep, as you know, I'm a dealer. But even this one, now that it's fixed up like this, I'm going to be taking. So there was two parts of it. If you guys remember, the reason I got it is because I said to myself, if you fix that stuff, if you fix that up for yourself cheaply, then you can take it down to Vinendal and you can trade it in for anything else. So this guitar, now that's all fixed up and ready to go, is going to be going to Vinendal. Excuse me, for trade. And see, well, potentially, it's going to be something really nice for me to give up on this one, because it sounds really, really good. I like the one position on this one. I like the neck pickup on this one. It has a very, going through my amp, it has almost like an acoustic guitar sound to it. And you'll hear that. I just taped today the review of this guitar and discussing, and also I videotaped all of the steps that I did in the process of my cleaning, so that you can, I documented everything that I did, all the cleaning processes and how it looked before and after. So that video will be a little bit longer than I usually put out, but it will show the guitar when it came, and then of course how it looks now. And I've videoed all this work that I did, the fret work, the cleaning work, rust work, and all that, and how I did it. And yeah, yeah, couldn't be happier. This is you, you know, if you're in Japan, you may come across, one of these. Well, 300 euros in Japanese yen is about what you could find one of these, maybe. That's about Rokuman yen, Rokuman Gosen yen gurai. So yeah, you can find one. But again, you're not gonna find one of these over here for that price. And I'm just pleased with the way that it turned out, and the fact that other than the knobs, the spring, and the input jack, it's 100% original. I mean, that puts it, I think, 98%. You guys think 98% original? Oh, Mark says, I know, I'm a little jealous. Well, don't be jealous yet, brother. It's still got to make it here. And that's always like this. There's no guarantees. I've been fortunate. I'm not even going to lie to you. My guy over in Japan is really good at packing things. And again, he's never done this before. But I said, this is how you do it. I sent him a video from my friends over at TC Gaki in Tokyo, explaining how to pack things. And boy, he took it to the next level. I mean, if you ever seen one of my unbox, I used to show the whole thing where I take it out and start doing the wrapper, but I had to cut that out because it's an hour worth of wrapping just to get to the damn guitar. It's like this much wrapping and this much guitar. He really pads it. So I hope it shows up in one piece. One story regarding that is the seller on that guitar. Well, here's a good story tying into that. The seller on that guitar, the Les Paul Greco 76 Greco Les Paul Custom that I just bought, in his photos, he showed it with four knobs, speed knobs, four black speed knobs. It came with four black speed knobs. When it arrived to my agent's house, it was missing a knob. I don't know what it is about me and these guitars and missing knobs. It's like, I guess if that's the worst thing that I have to worry about, it's a minor thing. But it was missing its speed knobs. Now, I've got a spare speed knob right here in my knobs and doohies thing sitting here. I could use to replace it with. And also, I have somewhere here four black top hat knobs. In the 800 model, so we're talking about the EG 600, C custom, and the EG800C. They only made the custom in the 600 and 876. The 800 came with top hat, witch hat knobs. The 600 had speed knobs. So I have either one here, but that'll just go to show you. Even in Japan, you got to be careful with some sellers. You know, I, you don't take a picture of something with four knobs and then send it with three. So I'll be buying from that guy again. And again, that leads to my hopes about my guy in Japan. He knows nothing about electronics or anything like that. So it usually isn't until it gets here and I go through it to see if it's all right. And then the next move is to go to Fern, my luthier. But I have high hopes. I think it'll be all right. Minor inconvenience, but I'm becoming the parts king. I shit you not, guys. Even things like this, when I do sell the super sounds here, I will sell it with its original springs, and the original knobs here I will not. See, I'll sell the springs, but these knobs are hard to come by, and who knows, I may come across a 70s Greco with this knob color that's and so I can complete the set. So I start collecting stuff like that, older parts and things like that. When I think it's the springs, well, that can go. That's not a big deal. But it's gotten to that point where, unfortunately, that happens, and that's one of the reasons why you want to start a parts collection. Buck Wow, my man, it is so good to see you. It's not a party unless it gets buck wild. Greetings from Canada. You are well, my friend. Always nice to check in, listen, and converse gear. Yes, sir, I agree. It's one of my favorite things to do. My psychologist says I need to find another hobby. I am contemplating, but I'm not so sure. I kind of dig this one. I just am excited about that, and the hard work, because you guys, for those of you who remember how this thing looked when it first came in, it looked like a hot mess, and I'm sure most of you guys looking at it are like, okay, Mike, let's see what you can do here. But I really put my foot into it. It's what I talk about, the payoff in my mind. The Joker in the Batman movie, one of my favorite lines from the movie, he says, "The eye of the mind makes a movie." In other words, what you see, what you imagine, what you conceive, what you project. And I know this sounds really weird, but it actually kind of, in a way, is true. Can happen. You can manifest it, as the mystics like to say. But if you have a clear plan, it works the same way. If you have a clear vision in your head, then you can achieve that. And my vision, this exceeded my vision. I cannot believe again how nicely this thing turned out. So much so, and I like the sound of it and the way it plays so much that, it's going to be a tough one for me to let go, because I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it the last 2 weeks. But it's pay off, guys. Don't buy Gibsons. Don't buy Gibsons. Don't do it. If you really want to have a Gibson and save your money, or look into the 70s guitars that I have quite often and will continue to discuss on the channel instead. Break free of the need to impress your friends with having a Gibson. And I tell you what impress your friends, if you bought that Gibson, you were able to hold on to it for a number of years. That would impress me as a friend. Because even I've had that problem. I've had Gibsons, I had to let them go because things came up. If you buy that Gibson and you can hold on to it, then you've achieved something. It might be impressed me that way. We've all been there, all of us. Mike Moras, welcome. I'm buying a 70s Greco Speedway 700, a way to get a Albic, yep type guitar. Albic. I always had a pronouncing that name. I always thought it sounded so Arabic, I don't know why. Middle Eastern type guitar at a reasonable price. What are your thoughts? I think you're heading in the right direction. Go onto the web, go to digimart.net, digimart.net. Sounds D-I-G-I in D-I-G-I, Mart, M-A-R-T, .net. That'll take you to a Japanese site. They do have an English translation on that, I do believe. And type in your guitar and start researching. They are available. Um, I you don't and quite frankly, you even with the cost, I don't know where are you at? Did you say? No. Depending upon where you're at, the VAT can be negligible or non-existent. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. I am a promoter of these Greco. I am a strong believer in these guitars. The quality of these, by the way, I mean, again, I remind you, the guys who made this guitar in 1977, 6 years later, started making the JV series for Fender. Okay? Same guys, same factory, same experience, made these. So, do you think that these guitars are lesser quality than those JVs, those JV Fenders? No, no. Again, this was the card that got the guys on the plane to go over and take a look in the first place because they held them in their hand. They're like, holy crap, these guys are building these things better than we are. So, I'm a strong believer that anytime you're reaching out to a 70s Greco, then you're not on the wrong track as long as you're staying off AliExpress and not going the Gibson route. I'm good because you could easily say, "Well, I could have some guy make one in China for me," but you and I both know that that's not it. That's not going to be satisfactory. So there's that, guys. Yeah, Gibson, Gibson, and some guitars was the subject of tonight's discussion. Also was able now again. I filmed the musical part of the review of this guitar today. I have to film myself or the introduction and the ending of it. I've already filmed all the assembly and cleaning videos. So I got to put all this footage together. Um, but that will be coming out probably. If I don't do it Wednesday, then I'll tell you on the live stream when I'll put it out. So it's either going to be the same day as the next live stream or a to be announced date. I'm trying to see how well my previous video was doing. Um, my channel is interesting. I'm getting more viewers. I'm getting more subscribers, but I'm staying in a lane still. And I'm trying to get 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I have to see how well videos are doing, what works, what doesn't work, of course, just like anybody else. But at the same time, also, I started shooting in 4K, by the way, if you guys notice, because again, YouTube tells you that 4K videos are promoted. So I'm doing all the right things, but I'm in a lane right now that I can't seem to be able to break out of. Uh, so again, just to round this discussion up tonight with a reminder that I am trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And if you have friends, families, or somebody you really can't stand, recommend the channel to them to take a look at and see if they too um, want to become a subscriber to this channel. Uh, we picked up a couple of tonight to take over a TDO sub tonight. I do appreciate that very much. Put me one step closer. And I appreciate, see, I don't have PayPal. I don't ask for donations. Um, I don't have any of that. I really, the work here is the satisfaction that I get out of it. Sitting down, usually when I'm having lunch, and typing up the scripts for these live streams is always fun. I like the work, but I do have aspirations to get to 5,000 subscribers. And being stuck in this lane, I can't seem to break free quickly. So do help out if you haven't subscribed yet. and you do like the contents of this channel and the stuff that I do bring to you, I'd like to have you join in. Ben says, "Stop." Tommy Mac says, almost halfway to 5,000. Yep. Mike, we need Sunday at Mike t-shirts. Yeah, I. It's funny. Again, the story of this channel is I started to sell my music, so I have my my site for selling the music. The T-shirt and the Sunday at Mike's T-shirt, good one. My motto of my channel, I'm good, is another. And I have a guy in Bangkok that I know that I can have do that. So yeah, maybe that's something that I might consider. I don't mind doing those things. If I'm selling the music as a value. So if somebody buys my music, goes to bandcamp.com and looks up Mike McWilliams and buys my music, then I feel it's a fair trade of value here. Your money for good music. With a t-shirt and mug, I don't want to do anything cheap. It has to be a quality. I don't want it breaking apart. So there's that. But again, it had to be a fair quality. If I'm going to take your money, I want to make sure I'm giving you something of quality, which is one of the reasons why I won't do PayPal. I won't just take your money for taking your money's sake. I know, well, if you're at this level subscriber, I'll give you, a chocolate bar or whatever. I don't, fair value, guys, fair value. So help me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go and hit the subscribe button. If you like the video tonight, hit the like button. I want to thank everybody for showing up always and supporting this channel. You guys know who you are, all you guys watching right now and listening. You guys have always, always been great friends to me. And I want to let you know I do appreciate it very much. And sometimes, even when I'm at my worst health wise, sitting here knowing that you guys will be here to have this live stream with actually perks me up. So for so many reasons, that and 1,000 more that I too numerous to mention tonight, I want to say thank you guys. And until the next one, guys, take care. Bye-bye.